Hello everyone, I am Yogesh Gaikwad. I am General Manager of Game Studios at Nazara. I know this is the last session, so I'll try to be short. I know you guys are tired, so we'll keep it short, and knowing the audience is mostly young studios and students, so I'll try to keep it simple and try to put out across lessons from my learnings from my journey so far. So a little bit about me. I've been part of the Indian games industry for the last 20 years. So I've worked in different roles over the years, starting from QA, design, production to studio management. I worked across multiple platforms, PC, mobile, console, VR, and here I am. So everybody knows that one of the key processes of game development is game production, and one of the key figures that runs the show is the game producer. So we'll start with who is a game producer and what does he do. So when most people think of a producer, people think that he is a person who sort of runs the entire process from start to end, manages the deadlines, the budget, and his also thing is to deliver a compelling experience for most of the players. In production, there is no specific rule in terms of what exactly a producer does. Most companies tailor the role as per what their needs are, depending on the size of the project, the size of the development team, and the specific needs of the project. So some companies consider a producer primarily as a project manager who manages tasks, tracks and maintains schedules and budgets, or work with the design and product to decide what goes in the game or what does not. Similarly, some companies, producer is sort of the visionary who is the gatekeeper, so he directs the vision of the game that aligns with the goals of the company or the game. And with the advent of Agile and Scrum, he is also somebody who is sort of a product owner who defines what goes into the game each sprint from time to time. And things have changed a lot after the advent of Agile, and recently with mobile picking up, wherein the earlier production process was primarily pre-production, production, post-production, to now it's like build an MVP, early access soft launch, refine KPIs, and then do a global launch. But however, with our Indian context, most studios are mobile driven studios, and also our culture is a unique culture in terms of we have a diverse, homogeneous culture, and social relationships here matter more. So especially in the Indian context, producer is not a boss of the project, but a mere facilitator who sort of removes roadblocks, making sure or helping people achieve their goals in delivering objectives. Similarly, he is a bridge between different teams and a problem solver across teams. He simplifies tech and creative needs of people, basically artists and developers, for non-technical or business folks. And similarly, people who are non-technical or creative, he manages their goals or their needs from core creative and technical people. Ideal skill for a producer, especially in India, is the ability to read people, know and maintain team morale, and promote a healthy work culture in the team. Similarly, he can be a person who's sort of jack of all trades and can understand different aspects of game development and work with different people across different teams. Also, one of the things that a producer should also know is the trends, and also should be familiar with different mechanics and genres across the industry. Also, a producer is someone who needs to connect with the team and should be aware of their well-being. So what does a producer do on a day-to-day basis? So primarily his main job is project management, so managing the entire development process from concept to release, maintaining project schedules, milestones, allocating resources, and ensure that project is on track. Similarly, other things include budgeting and resource management. More so it happens more on the PC console side instead of the mobile side, wherein you need to ensure that resources are used efficiently across different tasks. Sometimes it also would mean working with external vendors, negotiating contracts, managing agreements, or even optimizing spending in case of mobile, where certain UA spends are needed to acquire new users. Also, he needs to work on the team coordination aspect, work closely with different teams, be it art, development, QA, designers, facilitate more of collaboration between different teams, make sure that everybody is clear about their roles and responsibilities and working towards a common goal. Also, a bit of risk management is needed, because in game development most things go wrong, nothing goes as per what is planned. So he needs to be proactive in identifying risks and come up with strategies to sort of mitigate those risks by sort of aligning timelines if there is a delay, or reallocating resources or making changes to the project scope. Similarly, producer is sort of a buffer between the stakeholders and the development team. He serves as primary contact with all the stakeholders, be it the management team, or in case of publishers are involved, or if there are external partners involved when you are working with certain licensors. His job is to provide regular updates to them, address their concerns, and give feedback and inform them about the decisions taken by the team. Similar thing is about market research and analysis. So one of the other roles that he needs to also do is be aware of the market, do research, understand the target audience, assess what's happening in the market, and pass this information, or even coach and mentor the design team, influence marketing strategies, and even the distribution channels. Also, in some studios, primarily PC console, not mobile, you need to provide guidance, and overall creative direction of the game needs to be driven by the producer. It may involve collaborating with designers or artists, or even product at times, to make sure that whatever is being built aligns to the goal of the team to deliver a quality product. So now, after you know what a producer does, how do you become one? So far in my experience with hiring producers, so there are two aspects of hiring. If you are a beginner who wants to break into this role, or you are an experienced person who wants to get into this role. So if you are an absolute fresher, ideally a producer should have some sort of game development experience, at least knows how things work in the industry, what are the things that happen on a day-to-day basis. You have eagerness to learn, to do things. You know basic project management or some basic budgeting, People skills are essential for being a producer, because you work with different teams and you have to get work delivered by being a facilitator. So empathy and communication skills are essential. And the primary skill that I feel is important is passion for games. So if you love playing games or have affinity towards games, so while working on those games, the decisions that you will take will always be for the betterment of the games. Similarly, if you have some sort of experience, primarily you will be judged on the basis of project management skills, communication and people skills, because people skills are important when you come with certain experience, because when different teams work together, different people work together, there is bound to be friction, and people skills help in solving those. Similarly, problem solving skills. So there will be 10 different problems that arise every day during your production cycle. So you will need to be a top-notch problem solver to solve those problems, and ideally address the problem, not the people. Similarly, you need to have some sort of budgeting skills and risk management skills as well, where you can proactively identify that where things can go wrong, plan mitigation and work towards it. And another similar thing for experienced folks also is passion for games. So ideally the path for becoming a producer, if you are an absolute fresher, it would start with being an production intern, getting a intern role in one of the companies, or you spend some time working in either game dev, art or QA, and then you sort of, if there is a internal job position available, you move to that role. I've started with QA, and most of the producers that I've worked with either have started in QA or art. After you sort of break in the industry or break into that role, the first role that will come across to you would be sort of an associate producer. It's sort of an entry-level job where primarily your responsibilities will be to assist the producer. You will be in charge of small features or areas in the game depending on the scope of the game and the size of the game. Then as you progress, you can become a senior producer or a lead producer. Here you would be in charge of a feature or an area of a platform Assume that you're building a multi-platform game, so you could be in charge of a iOS or Android or even console, Xbox, PlayStation 5 or PC. And the role of a senior or a lead producer ideally depends on the size of the project. Similarly, as you progress, you can become an executive producer. So you are responsible for the entire game or the platform. So you would be the single point person for the game. Also, the other thing is that you need to coach and help other producers achieve their goals, and you are responsible for the overall budget and schedule for the entire game. And then one of the top-notch roles in that industry is either a production director or a VP production. So you will be working across multiple games. In that case, you will be responsible for an entire division in case a company is big enough where there is a mobile division and there are multiple games being produced in it, or a PC or a console division where there are multiple games being produced in that division, and multiple executive producers would report to you in that case. Now moving on across my journey, so I would like to discuss about certain mistakes that I made and certain things that I did in my journey. These are absolutely stupid mistakes, so probably it may help you to proactively identify and work across those mistakes. So one of the first games that I built was a branded cricket IP based game. It was called Sachin's Tapathon. It was way back in 2004. The team was very small and it had to be built within a timeline of 2 weeks. So it was a single screen game with multiple power-ups and local leaderboard. It was still early days of feature phones where you had to deploy and publish the game through an operator, and it was priced at rupees 99, and it was a very simple game that you had to balance the ball on the bat, and there were power-ups which you needed to collect along the way. So when we started, we sort of overshot our production timeline by almost 100%. We ran into problems because of optimization. Those were still old Java days where there used to be ghost trails when the ball moves around, and at the last minute we had to add an additional programmer to speed up things and ship it on time. Also, it was very early days, so there was no documentation process. It was the typical Indian jugaad way that the developer makes a build and asks the QA person to come and test on his emulator instead of giving proper release notes or no documentation, and the bugs were randomly shown that okay, this is something that this bug has come or has been observed. So due to this ad hoc style of working, a lot of delays happened in the project. Also, the game didn't do that well because it was very simple. So few learnings when I introspected after the project was that when you try to build a game, many problems will come. 90% of the games don't ship, and one of the things that you will realize is making the first game is just like a college degree, that you will need to adapt and deal with multiple things, multiple problems that come across. The other important learning was I wanted to make this game because I believed that this game works. So this is a mistake that many indie studios or young developers make, that okay, I like this idea and I would like to build this game, but essentially you need to start thinking, would the end users would like to play your game, or would it be something that they would be interested to play the game? So don't get stuck with your own ideas. Also think from the end user point of view whether what you're building makes sense. And this is a problem that I generally see, that people tend to build games without thinking they want to build something that they like. Also, the other thing is, be aware of the market, do market research in terms of what the market demands. So even at that time, we thought that this is the game that would work, and we thought 99 rupees would be a good price point at that point of time, but typically it was a very small game. A better price point would have been something cheaper, maybe a 49 rupees. Also in terms of features, it was not very feature rich. So those are the things that you guys, when you build something, think about those things, that what you build, are those features or what your competitors are also doing. Moving on is the second game that I worked on. It was one of my first games where I had to work with localization. So it was based on a popular TV show called Hole in the Wall. So it was built for a operator and distributor in Israel. So I had to work with Hebrew localization there. Again, it was at a small startup where I had a fairly small team, 2 developers, 2 artists, and QA was outsourced. And it being a startup, I had to take up multiple roles, being the designer on the product, as well as producer on the product, as well as the internal QA on the product. And the game had a hard deadline because the show was going to air on TV, and we needed to have the game ready before the show was televised, and our entire production timeline was around 4 months. One of the problems that happened is, with me being the designer, I was never satisfied with the design, whatever was designed and how it translated as an output. So always it translated into design being changed over and over. So my designer persona overshadowed my producer thinking hat. And since it was also working with a licensor, we needed frequent approvals from the licensor. and due to changes in design or artwork, this took additional time because of the changes that were made. And also, since there was a third party involved, that was a liaison team in between, where they were working with the licensor, so you had to commit to certain timelines on basis of what they were saying. So this led to multiple things, because the relevant folks were not involved. So it caused me giving timelines that I thought what the team would deliver. So it was a very rookie mistake that I did, and this led to a 4-week delay in delivering the game. The team had to crunch, they had to rework frequently to accommodate the changes that I made, and also had to add additional resources and had to rush the game, and due to hard deadlines, quality suffered due to that. So few key learnings from this that I understood was, when you build a game, don't chase perfection. You need to evaluate impact of certain decisions that you take while building the game. So basically, I was building for mobile. Certain changes that I was wanting would have not been very visible on the mobile. So that is something you need to think, that when you make certain changes in the game, is it going to make an impact on the game and will actually make its way into the game. Also, the other thing is, you should always involve the relevant folks while coming up with deadlines, and when you are unsure of capability or speed or velocity of others, it causes complications. So you would assume that some person would be able to deliver it in 2 days, but ideally he would take 3 days. So the best thing is to empower that person, drive the accountability down to that person instead of you taking the decision. Similarly, this was the first, the third example is, this was the first console game that I built. It was a kart racing game based on Nintendo Wii. I had a relatively big team here, 8 artists, 4 programmers, designer and dedicated QA. And the features included, it was a 4-player split screen multiplayer game. It had 3 different game modes: time trial, Grand Prix and single race. And then we planned with 6 different themes with 5 tracks in each, and there were 12 characters and 20 carts to be part of the game to be shipped, and we had overall a timeline of 15 months to ship that game. When we started building the game, we started too broad. We started building all the themes together. We were also working with early versions of Unity 2.0 or something, that was not very optimized. We had a lot of tech challenges, so we needed a lot of help from community in terms of forums and directly from Nintendo as well, how to optimize for frame rates on Wii. Also, one of the big problems that arose, it was still old days when the industry was still dealing with CDs, DVDs, not the digital download model that we currently have. So to accommodate the holiday sales, we were mandated that the game has to be on shelves by September, or the game has to ship by September, in order to give it to the retailer who could make discs out of the game and have the game ready to be put on the shelves by the holiday season. Because of this, panic hit. Everybody panicked that, okay, how do we make this game in 12 months instead of 15 months? And like usual, like the standard practice that everybody says, that okay, let's reduce scope. We were going too broad, let's reduce the scope to a lesser number of tracks, lesser number of themes. After we did that, still things didn't change. The team morale was quite low because things were not working out. productivity was getting affected. Our focus was on finishing one theme, which led to a crunch. So people were stretching hard. At one point of time, we decided it's not going anywhere, so we decided to rework our strategy and then focus on building a single track with most of the features. And also, we had people in the team that had different skills as well, and not all skills were utilized at the same time. So we had an animator who could also model. We had a modeler who could also do environment art. After his tasks were done, he was sort of idle. So we sort of decided that leverage interdisciplinary skills which different people had to speed up the process. Also, what we did after reworking our strategy of building a vertical slice of the game, that strategy did wonders, because we succeeded in building one track that came out very beautifully. Team morale and the velocity with which they were working went up significantly, and as per the plan we were able to deliver the game, and we submitted for and passed the game in lot check. So if you guys know, in Nintendo has a certification process where you need to submit for something called as a pre-lot check, lot check and lot check 2. After you pass the submissions, only then you can publish the game. So the key learnings from this game, so luckily I was able to find screenshots for this game. So this game was again pretty old. I built this game in 2011. So the game is called Jumpstart Crazy Cards. So key learnings for me here were that sometimes you need to go back to the drawing board and change the approach when things are not working out. Instead of just sticking to, okay, this is what you had worked before, I'll continue going down the same path. But if you stay down the same path, things usually are stuck. And also, since I was the producer, you are responsible for shipping the game. So it should not come at the expense of the team. Team well-being is also very important when you ship a game, which is essential because a team who suffers crunch or has bad morale will be burnt out. Also, if your team has high morale and confidence, things work extremely well, quality improves, the speed at which the team delivers and builds things also work very well. And also, sometimes instead of going too broad, you start building a vertical slice or a MVP of the game. It will help you uncover a lot of unseen issues and fix those in time. And also, one of the important things that I learned here is that you should prioritize the hard and the high risk items early. So you de-risk your project. So you build the hard things first and then take on smaller things, because if you achieve the hard things first, building easier things will become much easier. So these were some of my learnings from what games I built in my early days. So probably it may be helpful to you and not make the same mistakes. So thank you. In case you have any questions, please feel free.
Questions?
Yeah.
This question is in two parts. One is that what platforms or role do you have now? The second is that what was your background? Were you a technologist and a programmer, or were you a art and design guy, or were you an all-rounder, or what when you started, and in which year did you start?
I started in 2004.
Okay.
I started in QA and then moved into design, and you can consider me more of a design or a product person. And okay. What was the first question?
It was what platforms or role do you have now? Like what platform do you develop for, and what is your role?
So right now my role entails looking at different companies rather than platforms, and mostly the studios that I work with are multi-platform, mobile and PC.
Got it. Thanks a ton.